Hello folks, it's Mike Cayley 7. Riding home from work. I hope you guys are having a good day or a good time when you're watching this video. I can hear text messages dinging on my phone and I don't want to hear them. So, what's going on with me? Well, same old, same old. Let's see if I can think of a topic for you. Something to entertain the masses. Alright, I'll tell you a story. How about that? So, see if I can think of a specific one about my father. Let's see. Well, I'll just tell you about my dad. How about that? Let me tell you about my dad. It's not Father's Day or anything, but I figure let me just tell you about my dad. Hang on a sec. I gotta try not to die here in this curve. Yeah, scraped on the left. Yeah, baby. So, my dad was born in 1936 in Somerville, Massachusetts. His name was Dave Jones, and he didn't know his dad because there was a big split between his mom and his dad, and his dad was exiled. My grandfather was exiled from the city of Somerville on pain of death, literally. So my dad grew up without knowing his dad and was filled with all kinds of poison about his dad. Meanwhile, his dad, my grandfather, was lamenting his fate at having not been able to be with his children, my dad and my uncle and my aunt. Anyway, it was a big brouhaha. So, that's one thing that shaped my dad and made him such a great dad, because he was always there for me, even though he and my mom divorced under very similar circumstances, I might add. I'll tell you what it was. It was when his mom and dad split up, it was rumored that my grandmother was having an affair with an Italian guy. And so there was a big fight about that. And my grandmother's brother and father got involved, and that's how my grandfather got banned. And everybody thought that she had an Italian guy's kid, but there's absolutely no denying that my father is the son of my grandfather. They look like clones, kind of like I'm a clone of my dad. So when I was in the womb, my mom and dad split up. She booted him out of the house because he was cheating on her. So he started going around telling everybody that she was having sex with a black person, which my mother was dating a black guy at that point. My mom and my dad had been split up a little while already, so she was dating a black guy. So who cares, right? Well, back then, woo boy. So it was the N-word. That's what they said. She's you know, screwing the N-word. So when I was born, my grandmother came to the hospital expecting to see this little N-word baby. And my mom knew, you know, whose baby it was from the get-go. So she's sitting there with me in her arms, and she looks up at my grandmother and watches her face. And my grandmother, my dad's mom, looks down at this, you know, blue-eyed, blonde-haired baby. And the look of shock on her face was palpable. You know, it was just wow. So my mom says, he has his father's nose, doesn't he? The Jones nose, we called it. And my grandmother said he certainly does not. He has the Buckley nose. So the nose, she said, came from her side of the family, not the Joneses, because she hated the Jones guy, you know, that guy she exiled. So my dad never knew his dad, but he was damned if he was going to let me go through that. So he was there every single solitary weekend when I was growing up. came out, took me off to his place, brought me back on Sunday night. Every weekend, I could always rest assured my dad was there. Took me out for school clothes, took me on vacations in the summer. My mom used him as a threat. If you don't obey me, I'm going to call your father. So, he was always there. A very, very prominent presence in my life. So that's a little bit about my dad, who grew up in the hardscrabble days of the Great Depression. And he was a German-looking kid. You know, European, kind of German-looking, actually. German-looking kid in an all-Italian neighborhood during World War II. You can imagine the fighting he had to do just to survive. So that made him real tough. And he hated Italians. Absolutely despised them. Italian Americans. Called them all kinds of racist words. And used to love beating them up. Especially if somebody was arrogant and loudmouth. Ooh, man, he just relished that. He took special pleasure in ripping their hair out by the roots and breaking bones and ripping out eyeballs and just ridiculous stuff. Yeah, and I made my life about the opposite of that. Because, in part because my dad was able to be there, and that afforded me a much more stable upbringing and more support and all that. So I think in my next video I might try to tell you the story of how my father threatened the lives of virtually every single human being in my junior high school in 1983. Or no, it was 84. In May of 84, my dad threatened the lives of every single human being in my junior high school. And I will tell you that story in our next installment of the Mike Haley 7 Show, coming to you occasionally from Willow Spring, North Carolina. Until next we meet virtually, I wish you well. Stay safe out there, and I'll talk to you later.